My name is Lilia, and I want to share with you today how I render lard from our pork fat and how I store it. I will be canning my lard today. Well, a little disclaimer is that there is no official recommendation from the Canning Society on how to properly and safely to can lard. And it's kind of funny to me because historically speaking, for centuries, that's what my ancestors ate. Without refrigerator, without any kind of special technique or anything, there will always been a jar or a can or some sort of a vessel right next to the stove where in the kitchen where cooking was done, there was always some rendered fat sitting in a corner and being used for everyday cooking. Now, I'm not going to get into it, so I don't want to upset anybody, but there was a time when we were told, don't eat fat, fat is bad. Then we were told, eat fat, fat is good. Then we were told, there's a good fat, there's bad fat. Listen, we have to make a decision what we're going to do because we can't be listening to everything, right? But I can tell you that in my family, we grew up with this fat right here, and it's called lard. In Russian, we called it smalets. Mama made smalets all the time because we would raise one pig per season. We would slaughter it sometime in September or October. And one of the things we had to do was to take all of that fat, chop it very, very, very small, render it, and can it. Except that my mama didn't put it into quarts. She put in those big 3-liter jars, and that's how we cooked. So this particular lard is from 2018. Right now it's 2021. And I know that there are going to be people who are going to tell me it's not safe to be used. So I just opened it, okay? I just opened it. It actually was sealed. I just cracked it open. And I'm smelling it. It smells good. You know how sometimes fats go rancid if they were not stored properly? I know fats do oxidize and go rancid. Not this one. It's still nice and opaque white, and it smells like good lard. So this old lard, I can go ahead and use it, and I know I can use it, and I feel safe about it. But you guys have to make a decision for yourself. So this particular lard from 2018, I need to rotate from my food pantry. So this lard I'm going to be using to make soap because we make our own soap using our own home lard. And the lard that I'm going to render today, I'm going to can them again, and I'm going to put them on my shelf and use them whenever I need to for cooking. Okay, friends, so this is the fat I was telling you about right here. It's from one of our pigs, and the skin has been removed. Some of it is back fat, some of it is leaf fat, somewhere in the bottom here. But there are a couple of pieces that may have a little bit of meat left over. I'm going to try to skim that off if possible. But even if it stays on, it's okay. It's fine. It's not going to really interfere with much. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting it into thin strips, and then I'm cutting it into tiny little pieces. Like tiny little pieces, literally, like if you look at it, it's probably, I don't know, like a 1/4 of an inch. So if you want to, you may try to put it through a meat grinder if you have a strong meat grinder. I find this to be relaxing to cut fat. Isn't that funny? It brings me a lot of memories because my mama used to do it all the time. And as a little kid, I remember sitting at the kitchen table and just watching her work. So I'm going to be just cutting everything small. Make sure that I try not to put any moisture into my lard when I'm rendering it. There are some recipes out there that say to put a little bit of water on the bottom of your pot. I don't do that. As a matter of fact, while I'm rendering, I will not even put a cover on because I don't want any condensation. Okay. As I'm cutting some of the leaf fat, I found a lymph node. So lymph nodes like to hide in the fat. And when you look at it, you can feel it. And it's slightly different color. It's not the color of meat. It's slightly almost like light brown to a gray color. So I need to cut it out. We don't want it in our fat at all. So we're gonna discard it, okay? So I'm gonna cut it out. So when I am cutting leaf fat, it's very important that I examine it, because pigs have a lot of lymph nodes just like any other animals. And we don't want to put a lymph node into the lard, because when you think about it, lymph node is like a garbage disposal for the animal. Okay, so here's my kazan. It's still cold. I did not turn the heat on. And all of this cut up fat, I'm gonna just dump in here. Okay, all of it. I'm not adding any water. I know there's some recipes that do that. Mama never added water. What's important for me is that it's a thick bottom pot and it's going to heat up slow. So I'm going to turn my heat on, probably to a medium high. Okay, and I'm going to allow this to warm up and begin to cook this slowly and render the fat. And we're going to start seeing some fat. I'm not even going to stir it for a while. Just let it sit for maybe 15-20 minutes. I'm going to let it sit. And I have to just watch it for now, really. It's a very slow process. Okay, so this has been cooking for about 20 minutes. And look how the pieces of fat beginning to change its color. So I'm just going to stir everything, lifting what's on the bottom to the top. Okay, so some of the pieces are getting a little bit more browner. They're beginning to cook a little bit. It's normal. Eventually they will all turn that way. So like I said, this is a slow process. Okay, so I like to work on a low heat, or I should say lower. It's not exactly the lowest setting, probably medium to low. And I'm just going to let this cook down until all of these fat pieces have dissolved and only little brown specks are left. And I'm going to have a lot of yellow, translucent fat. Okay, so it's been cooking for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And look, of all this fat is being rendered. It's nice and translucent yellow color. The chunks are decreasing because they're releasing all of this fat. So I'm going to keep cooking this for a little bit longer, and I'm going to start getting my jars ready. Okay, so now I need to prepare the jars. I'm going to be using quart jars. I'm going to wash them and I'm going to sterilize them, and I need to get them dry, very, very dry. And same thing with lids. I have to wash them to make sure they're nice and clean, but they have to be absolutely dry. So how am I going to dry them? Well, I'm going to wash them in soapy water. I'm going to rinse them, and then I'm going to put them on a tray, and I'm going to put them in the oven to at what temperature? About 200, 210 temperature, to just warm them up nice and get them nice, really hot, dry them completely and get them ready, because we don't want to put oil or this fat, it's turning into oil right now, into a wet jar, because it will go rancid and will go bad. Okay, so it's very important that the jars are absolutely clean and dry. Okay, my jars are nice and hot, and now it's time for me to start taking some of this rendered fat and pouring them into very hot, dry jars. It's very important to put them in very hot jars because we don't want to crack any jars. And I pulled up the tray really, really quick, close to the stove, because I don't want to make a mess and I don't want anything to catch on fire. All right, so I am pouring up all the way almost to 1/4 inch headspace. Okay, because why? Because I'm not going to process this at all. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, like my mama used to do. All right, let me dump this. See, these are shkvarki. These, I don't know how to translate this, but I'm going to put them back because they're going to keep cooking. So I'm going to move this jar a little closer. Okay, and I'm going to keep scooping this fat and filling up my jars. So let's talk about processing. There is no real recommendations about how to process lard. So I feel like every homesteader, every prepper does it their own way, and I'm gonna do my way. So This fat is so hot, okay, that it really does not need any kind of processing time. Meaning that I'm not going to put it in a pressure canner, I'm not going to put it in a water bath canner, nothing. Because I'm afraid of bringing any kind of moisture in it, because moisture will actually make it rancid and it will kill it. So I will show you the old-fashioned way that my mama used to do a long time ago, using a blanket. Okay, so I need to wipe the rims, and normally I use a wet paper towel with vinegar on it or something, but in this case it's totally dry, because remember guys, I don't want to bring any moisture into these jars. Now, do you see how yellow and kind of like golden color this oil is? Well, it's not going to stay this way. Once it begins to solidify, it will turn into white solid lard. All right, so that looks nice and clean. Now I'm going to be putting my dry lids and rings on. And this is the old-fashioned way I was telling you about. So I have a blanket and I put all of my hot jars in here, and I'm going to cover them with the blanket for 24 hours. And they're going to create a little oven inside, because that lard is super hot right now. And then tomorrow, it's gonna look just like this. It's gonna be solid white lard. So I say, let's go back to our roots and see what our ancestors ate, and this is what they ate. So don't be afraid of lard. I love to bake with lard. I love to make my soaps with lard. I like to cook with lard because it has such a high burning point. So on this note, friends, stay encouraged and try something new.